first question is, tell me what your name is.
My name is Jayne Diaz.
And do you know what the date is today about?
Yes, today is August 21st.
Right. Tell me, did you grow up in Carp, or tell me your history in Carp?
No, I was born in Long Beach, and when I was 9 months old, my parents brought myself with them. They had bought a small ranch here in the valley, and I've lived in Carpinteria since then.
And do you know what brought your parents here?
My dad was graduated from college in agricultural engineering and was always desirous of carrying out that education by being a farmer. And they bought a small piece of property just east of the polo field that had an orchard, and that's where I lived till I was about 5. And then then my father took over a larger property that was owned by my grandfather right adjacent to the polo field, same general locale, and farmed the property that at that time ran from the freeway to Foothill.
What did he farm?
Lemons and avocados, and then we did row crops of tomatoes and lima beans.
What years approximately would this be?
That would be in the 50s, late 40s and 50s.
Okay. Just going to adjust something here. What schools did you go to?
I went to, excuse me, I went to Aliso School, and then to everybody. At that time, there were not multiple schools. So we went to Aliso School, then we went to Main School, and then we went to high school, which is now the middle school.
Was there segregation in the schools?
No, segregation had just ended when I went into school. Believe it or not.
Well, what is your understanding of what the segregation was like before then? Or do you have an understanding?
I don't really have a full understanding. It's always been something that I found really hard to grasp, that it even existed in Carpinteria, because I grew up with many different types of children from kindergarten on that I am still in touch with. I mean, Mexican American kids and whatever else, and it's just hard to believe that existed, but it's part of Carpinteria's history, apparently.
Your last name's Diaz, right?
Right, but my maiden name is Calloway.
So you pretty much had a mixing of the Hispanic and non-Hispanic
Yes.
groups growing up.
Mm-hmm.
What typically did you do after school?
In elementary school, we just got on the bus and went home because we were all bused, all the farm kids. Most of us, it was not as commonplace for our parents to come and pick us up and all like they do today. So we rode the bus, and my brother and I mean, we didn't have a lot of playmates on an everyday basis because we lived rurally. And so we helped out at home and just played ourselves. As ridiculous as it sounds, I mean, it was some of the time it was cowboys and Indians for him, and other times it was dolls and other things for me. And we just did that. We did have a really large extended family that were all in the Los Angeles area, and they would occasionally come up because the ranch I grew up at had 2 houses. We lived in one, and the other was my grandparents' summer home. And so there was always a place for them to be able to stay. And of course, they thought coming to the ranch was extraordinary, as did I. When I got to visit them, going to Los Angeles was really fun.
That's good. Did you go to the beach some?
Yeah.
Well, which beaches and what did you do with them?
Main Beach. We typically went to the main beach because in those days, a lot of the moms would spend the day at the beach and watch all the kids. So, like I don't recall my mom coming to the beach a lot, although she grew up at the beach and loved the beach. I just don't remember her on a daily basis going very often. But she would take us, and there would be a whole bunch of other moms that were her friends, and they would all take turns kind of keeping an eye on us because we didn't have a lifeguard situation the way we do today. And we would just spend our afternoons there a lot. And the old beach store was there, so...
Is this the end of Linden?
Uh-huh. And it was pretty fun.
How about in your teens? What did you do? Did you have any particular interests?
Well, we did sports programs through the school a lot.
What did you do?
I played volleyball, and but it was mostly intramural. They didn't have as extensive a program as they developed later. I know my children were on teams that went all over the place, but we didn't do that. I don't know. We all kept busy doing things, but a lot of it was getting together with friends and staying out of mischief.
Did you go to the Carp Theater at all?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, it was an active movie theater, and we would all go to the movies a lot. That was that, football games.
Barbecues?
Yeah, family. Most kids, their families had a group of friends, and through that we did different things. We didn't have quite as many things as they do today because of transportation and many other things, but it was a little town. It was the best, in my opinion, and growing up.
Did you go to college?
I went to a year of college and then came back. I went away to school for a year. It was not particularly happy. It was a dramatic change in weather for me and all, being raised in Southern California, I guess. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I came back and went to City College part-time for a little while, and then was offered a position at a company that had just moved to Carpinteria. They built a huge building, which is now, I believe, Carl's Jr. And it was called Infrared Industries. And it was a real big opportunity. They took a pretty young clerk and turned her into a, administrative assistant.
I was going to say an older, pretty clerk.
I don't know, but I stayed there till I was, I got married, and then I was expecting my first child, and I worked till I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant, and then I took a leave, and in the end, I didn't go back. I chose to not work for a little while, and then 2 years into that, had a second child, and then got a call. They needed a part-time person at the water district, and so I worked there part-time for a couple years. But they have a, the word escapes me, but a policy about relatives, and my husband at the time was hired in a much more important position than I had, and so I left. And I was going to stay home with my children for a while again, and then the city hall came knocking. I was very flattered, but they had heard I had left the water district and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a position there. And that's what started it all.
For those that are young and haven't gotten jobs before, how would you say people get jobs? Is it kind of word of mouth, or do you have to prove you're capable, or any thoughts?
Well, I think when I was going through it, it was a lot of word of mouth. I mean, the water district and the city hall were about a block and a half from each other. Um, they they were not, they were two separate agencies, but I think that there was a knowledge of good workers, observation. I don't know. They just knew I had left, and they thought I had a lot of potential and had a good work ethic, and that was what they were looking for.
And good work ethic, I can see.
Yeah, and so I didn't really know for sure, because it was not something that I grew up going, gee, someday I want to be a city clerk. I never did that, but it was probably the best thing that ever happened for me in terms of opportunities. I started out in the planning department, but ended up city clerk, and it was pretty neat.
What did you do in the planning department?
A little bit of everything. I started as just a clerk at working the counter, and then was promoted several times. And then I had kind of reached the top of where I could go there, because I am not college educated, and certainly not as a planner. So the city manager, though, had been, of course, observing, I guess, all those years. And
Who was the city manager?
it was Alan Coates. And he, although I always thought it was amusing, because I really had never really spoken to him very much. But at one point, the deputy city clerk was retiring, and he approached me and asked if I would be interested in working for him over there. And that's kind of how it started. I went over as a deputy city clerk, and then the next city manager didn't really want the title of city clerk, city manager. So he made a deal with me that if I went to city clerk school and got certified, he would make the case with the council to give me the title and an increase to compensate for the responsibility. And we did that.
That's nice. What city manager was that?
That was Paul Marangella. And
what were your duties as a city manager?
as a city clerk,
The city clerk. Yeah.
I was in charge of all the Fair Political Practices Commission filings. In other words, everything to do with all the employees and all the boards and commissions as far as conflict of interest. I handled the elections. I was in charge of all the city records. I was, so to speak, for the lack of a better word, secretary to the council. In other words, carried out anything that they needed. I assisted the city manager in a large variety of things. I oversaw the department, which handled, our department handled the mail, just a multitude of little things, which I can't remember them all, but it was a lot of, a large variety.
How long were you, we'll wind this up in a second. Any thoughts on how things changed at the process of City Hall over the time you were there, and how long were you there?
I was there a total of 36 years, and yes, we technologically huge, really huge. We moved along at the same pace, probably till I had been there about, I want to say around 10 or 11 years, and then that's when the first few computers showed up. I didn't have one, but there were just a couple. And then when I moved over to the city clerk department, that was when Paul Marangella came along as our city manager, and he was the one that committed that there would be a computer on every desk, and there was. And that helped us a lot. I mean, by then we had all embraced the idea. And when you have as thin a staff as we had, you really need that to help you. You need all the help you can get, no matter what form it takes, because irrespective of what people think, it's continued to be a very thin staff out there. And So I thought we moved forward in a lot of ways.
Lastly, what lessons have you learned in life? Or any come to mind?
Oh gosh, I can't think of specifics. Just
Or any suggestions on how to get ahead and be successful at your job?
I think that a lot has to do. I know that it's not the current way of thinking, but I still believe that good work ethic counts a lot. We were all taught automatically to be prompt, to take on anything thrown at you, to be there when you say you're going to be there and give it your all. And I know that I'm aware of that because how much we did that, because the new clerk that replaced me is very, very qualified in so many ways, but has in many, many phone calls said to me, you know, I just noticed that you were in charge of this. Why in the heck? That's not a city clerk function. Why are you doing that? And I said, because they asked me to. And so I did. I said it was just a little different frame of thinking then. But I think just kindness to people. I try to practice some of the old basics, you know. Patience, kindness, giving back to my community. That's why I'm here at the museum.
Very nice.
That's all that I can think of
That's
at the
very
moment.
good. Thank you I just got you off the cuff here and did an excellent job. And thanks for your thoughts, Jayne.
Thanks a lot, Larry.